Welcome back to The Rancher's Voice, the podcast where the heart of agriculture meets the pulse of today's industry. From policy changes to pressing issues, The Rancher's Voice dives into the stories that matter most to ag producers.
In each episode, we will cover topics including legislation, leadership, and the agricultural lifestyle. So be sure to subscribe to The Rancher's Voice everywhere podcasts are featured. If podcasts aren't your thing, watch us on the Montana Stock Growers YouTube channel. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this week. We are back after a little break last week. I'm Ellie Brighton, and I'm flying solo again. As many of you guys know, last week was Ag Week, and so Montana Stock Growers had our board in town Monday and Tuesday. We also had a dinner on Monday night for St. Patrick's Day. There was a lunch at the Capitol with all ag groups and an ag roundtable with the leadership and the governor's office. So we had a really busy week Monday and Tuesday, and then we kind of got going with some hearings. So I'm going to give you guys a little update on just a couple bills from last week, couple bills that we will see this week, and then I want to hit on a few federal issues. So it'll be a pretty quick and I guess intense episode. So last week was March 17th through 21st. That was week 11 of the session. So now we are seeing bills for the second time, at least, if not the third, depending on if they're a revenue bill and if they've been in appropriations or not. But one of these bills was Senate Bill 190, which allows water right holders to consent to waive adverse effect analysis in permit or change applications, sponsored by Derek Harvey. Pretty self-explanatory title there. Of course, we went in to support that. We also had House Bill 676, which is to generally revise state land and water laws. This bill's a little more complicated. It's from Speaker Lear. This is a bill that we're opposing. Essentially, it will require the sale of state lands if there's a water right attached to it. So some concerns there. Then we had House Bill 119, which is, of course, to establish the Montana Cattle Committee. That was heard in Senate Agriculture and Natural Resources last week. And then we had a bill to provide funding for middle school career and technical education. So again, Montana Stock Growers supports that bill. Happy to do that. And then there was also general appropriations, so House Bill 2 last week. And so Stock Growers went in to support those agency budgets. So this week, week 12, Monday, we had Senate Bill 473, which is to prohibit weather modification. This is a bill by Senator Phelan from Eastern Montana. We are opposing that bill. Montana Stock Growers has policy to support weather modification and reasonable legislation that allows for that to happen. So we will be opposing this bill. Then on Tuesday in Senate Fish and Game, we have House Bill 354, which is Representative Konauer's bill to revise penalties for criminal trespass while fishing, hunting, or collecting antlers or sheds. Again, we've talked about this bill before, but basically it strengthens the rule around trespass. So if someone is fishing, trapping, hunting, etc., and trespassing, then they will lose their hunting license for 2 years, whereas before it was that they may lose it for 2 years. So we will be supporting that bill. On Wednesday in House Natural Resources, we have Senate Bill 263, which is to revise ownership of water rights on state lands. Montana Stock Growers opposes this bill. There's quite a few issues with it. The two I want to highlight are essentially it adds administrative land board processes to what's already in existence. And so that can make things a lot more cumbersome and make it a longer process. It also suggests that the land board may review already adjudicated water rights that they have obtained ownership on since 1982. So again, kind of recreating the wheel where we've already seen adjudication happen. We also have Senate Bill 463, which is a bill to revise laws relating to exempt wells. We will also be opposing this bill. This is one of the additional exempt well bills, not the main exempt well bill that Montana Stock Growers supports that they have worked on through the comprehensive water review process for the last 18 months. So in Senate Natural Resources, we will have the bill to increase DNRC fire assessment fees. Again, Montana Stock Growers will oppose this bill just because we have policy that supports a public process, not a legislative process here. On Thursday in Senate Ag and Livestock, we have confirmation for the governor's appointee for the Livestock Loss Board as well as the governor's appointee for the Board of Livestock. Friday in Senate Natural Resources, we have the bill to revise state wildland fire policy and funding. House Bill 130. As you guys may remember, there was House Bill 127 and House Bill 130, and they kind of went together to revise some DNRC fire policy. So again, this is a bill that Montana Stock Growers supports and is happy to do so. House Bill 84 by Representative Gist is to revise liability training for prescribed fires. Again, this is a bill that Montana Stock Growers supports. So I think that's it for state issues from last week and this week. As always, all of this is on our website, so please check it out. If you have questions, also feel free to call the office or email us. Our social media has a lot of good information as well. So for federal issues, there's just a few things going on. We have the West Act by Representative Celeste Malloy from Utah. This is called the Western Economic Security Today. So that's where the West comes from. And it's a bill requiring the BLM to withdraw the Conservation and Landscape Health Rule. This is something that Montana Stock Growers has consistently opposed. We know that this rule would be very harmful for public land users, for grazers especially. So we're excited to see this act come forward and hope to see a pass here. We also have the Local Act, so Local Opportunities Conservation and American Lands Act, which would permanently relocate the Bureau of Land Management headquarters to Grand Junction, Colorado. So this move, as many of you guys know, was made during the Trump administration, then reversed by the Biden administration. So this is kind of doing what they already did in the first administration bill here. Then we have the Pastures Act by Representative Harriet Hagman from Wyoming. So this is protecting agricultural spaces through Effective Ranching Strategies Act. So the goal is to safeguard private landowners and federal permittees from regulatory overreach. So it would prevent Forest Service and BLM from penalizing a grazing permittee for trespass if there's no fence to keep the livestock from encroaching on federal lands. So this seems to be a good direction for this bill to go. We also have the Wildfire Resilience Through Grazing Act, and this would direct federal agencies to study the role of grazing in wildfire prevention, fuels reduction, and post-fire recovery through grazing. So these are all things that Stock Growers is very supportive of, and we're excited to see this bill come forward on a national level. And finally, in the House Natural Resource Committee, there's actually a hearing today, Tuesday, March 25th, on H.R. 1897, which is the Endangered Species Act amendments of 2025. So again, as you guys know, Montana Stock Growers is a big supporter of ESA reform, and so we're really excited about this bill. There are many key reforms to the Endangered Species Act that this bill would cover. We do not have time to go through all of them, but they are excellent. A few that I think are important to hit on are just that it gives regulatory certainty that critical habitat won't be designated if a private landowner is working to implement a plan that conserves the listed species in question. So not being penalized even when our landowners are doing the work to keep that species healthy and the population robust. So that's a great thing. It also will allow states to develop and submit recovery plans. So again, this is kind of a state management piece here, which we are very supportive of state management. It also would require federal agencies to establish objective incremental recovery goals and provide regulatory relief as these goals are met. So it kind of stops the services from moving the goalposts and releases pressure on those areas that are making changes and we're seeing populations grow. It also requires the agencies to act on a 5-year review determinations of the listed species and to disclose to Congress all costs associated with ESA-related lawsuits. So a lot of good things in this bill, and we're really excited to see it brought forward. Seems like things are moving on the federal level in a good direction for ranchers and for public lands grazers, and we're looking forward to seeing how things go. As I mentioned earlier, please check out our website, subscribe to our email, check our social media, and always reach out if you guys have questions. Thanks.